Morning, guys. It's Tony Paladin. Today, I thought I'd speak a little bit about race prep and race warm-up on the day type of stuff to do. I get asked this question a lot. Young athletes often going into a trial situation having no idea what to do on the day. And it's actually pretty interesting that this is not a topic that gets spoken about a little bit more. And yeah, I'd just like to have an open mind going into the discussion and seeing effectively, what is the most optimal way to warm up for a 2K. So typically what I find, and most of my observations on younger, less experienced athletes, is when you go into a 2K performance, or even if it's a younger athlete doing a 1K, or if it's a 5K performance, those trials are maximal. You're basically going as fast as you can. The 5K can be a little more forgiving than the 2, but still the body is still working at an exceptionally high level. And if it's not sufficiently warmed up, you're going to find that you're going to come short and put yourself in oxygen debt early on in the trial, which is just inevitably going to hurt you quite badly later on. So for starters, generally I'm of the opinion that you should rather be overwarm as opposed to underwarm when you're going into a trialing situation. The reason I can say this is that if you've done a reasonable amount of training and you pull a 2K and you have a bad 2K and you rest and you come back an hour later and pull a 2K, you're probably going to pull a very similar time, if not better in some cases. If you look at athletes racing, guys that have a really poor heat will all of a sudden do amazingly in a repecharge. Largely because of the fact that the heat might have been poor due to the fact that the warm-up wasn't as good as it should have been. Because they've already put a 2K down through the system, the bodies are warmer and are able to do a lot more in the repecharge or in the second race scenario. So taking this mindset into erg pulling, if you run around the field once or twice and stretch your hamstrings, do a bit of steady state, 2, 3, and 10s, and then expect your body to be warm enough to do a maximal, 6 or 7 or 8 minute effort at full tilt. I think you're going to find that you're going to hurt, your lips are going to go blue, your thighs are going to hurt, and you're not going to be particularly happy with the result. So in terms of defining the appropriate warm-up, look, every athlete is different, so what works for one may not always work for another. But I think as a general rule, being a little overwarm as opposed to underwarm is definitely going to reveal itself when the proof is in the pudding of a good trial. Now, yes, bearing in mind certain athletes are more anaerobically defined than others. We get diesel engines who are, big aerobic beasts, and then we've got turbos who just can pump it out very anaerobically. Often what you find is that your more anaerobic athletes tend to go out very, very hard and put themselves in oxygen debt, whereas your more aerobic athletes can get into more diesel-like base rhythm. So those ones might be able to get away with, a different type of warm-up. But generally what I find works the best is a structured warm-up in terms of getting your mind right and then getting the body right and then defining the rhythm so that when you pull trial, you don't necessarily need to think that much about rowing. You just need to think about being calm. So getting down to the nuts and the bolts of the warm-up, generally I found the best thing to do, start with a light run or a light erg, 15, 20 minutes, light stuff, just moving, loosening the body up, getting the heart pumping, getting some blood around the body. Heart rates are quite low, maybe sort of 60, 70%, maybe 75%. But yeah, pretty low stuff. It's more just trial visualization and getting the heart going. From there, I find works quite well is maybe get up, or, if it's been a run or if it's the erg, get off the erg on the floor, run through a couple of stretches. When I do a stretching video, we can run through specific stretches. Again, everybody's different. The areas that I would really recommend focusing on are stretching out the hamstrings, the glutes, the back, the shoulders, getting everything nice and mobile. And then from there, after 5-10 minutes is back on the erg, and then, here's where we start to do the real warm-up. So generally what I find is 3 to 5 minutes of quite firm steady works well. And then after that, 3 and 10, 3 and 10, 3 and 10. So that's 3, 3 and 10s, stepping it up 32 strokes a minute, 34, 36, really getting into a good race rhythm. And now this is the bit where guys don't do this, and I think if you do this, it's going to make all the difference, is to consider doing 3 250s at your 2K pace. Exactly defining rhythm. So doing your 3 250s, you can rest about 1 or 2 minutes in between each of those. And what you'll find is in that second and third 250, you've almost pretty much defined where your rhythm needs to be. Personally, I used to do a little bit more than that. And when I pulled my better trials, I would even do maybe 4 250s, or I'd even do my 3 3 and 10s. I'd do a 250, and then I'd even do a 500 at my race pace. So that by the time I'd actually pulled trial, I had spent almost 1,000 meters broken up, pulling more or less at the capacity that I needed to pull at. So yeah, I mean, I think try it out sometime. Use it, don't use it, but you might just surprise yourself and see how well you can do. Just make sure that by the time you pull trial, your heart rate has to have touched close on its maximum, and you should have been very out of breath at some stage, and you should be sweating quite a lot to sufficiently make sure that body is warm and ready to move.